Check us out, CuriousSportsPulse.com and at SportsPulse100. There's a lot to get into today in terms of the NBA playoffs. Game 3. I mean, what do you want? Tyrese Haliburton is out. Let's see. We all know by now what my opinions are of this Boston Celtics team. I don't hold them in particularly high regard. I don't hold them in particularly high esteem. I think they're largely fortunate in how things have kind of panned out for them. Now, I'm not one of those who would hold this run against them. You again, the saying is you can only beat who's in front of you. But overall, I'm not impressed with this Boston Celtics team, and because of how things have kind of shaken out. No fault of their own. Absolutely no fault of their own. But I'm not going to be impressed. I all of the question marks and all of the criticisms that I've had of this team are largely going to remain if things continue to stand that the way that they do. But we're going to talk more on that later. We're going to talk a little bit about what this means for the Pacers and for the Boston Celtics moving forward. But first, Victor Wembanyama. He is so good. He is spectacular. There is no doubting this. Anyone who had doubts about what he can provide about this team specifically, I think is having any possible room for, well, is he going to be good? All of those feelings, any of those sentiments are largely erased. But is it something that's actually going to hurt other great players throughout the league? First and foremost, we have to talk about Rudy Gobert. And we saw what happened at the end of the game at the end of the Dallas Mavericks game, where Rudy Gobert, this was all over social media, where he's on ice, he's on skates, you know, Luka Doncic made him look silly. Victor Wembanyama had such a great year for on a team that finished well below 500. His year was so good with the San Antonio Spurs that the first thought that came to mind, maybe it's partially the French connection, but I think it has more to do with that Rudy Gobert won Defensive Player of the Year when there was a push for Victor Wembanyama, Wemby, to potentially have earned it, or at least he was in consideration. He was in discussions as a rookie. And that was what came to mind for a lot of people across at least what I saw on my Twitter/X timeline is Rudy Gobert is looking silly because of Luka Doncic, and people were saying this wouldn't happen to Victor Wembanyama. Now I think that's a little too harsh, right? Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, some of the best one-on-one ISO players offensively of all time. So it's going to happen regardless of who the defender is. But E-Rock, what are your kind of thoughts in terms of all this narrative? This is what I saw on my Twitter sphere.
I mean, I think this is what we expected. Sorry for being late. Shout out to Scoutcast. Had to wrap that sucker up. And shout out to Gabe for being on there. Thanks for having me on the pulse over here. I have to, I mean, this is what we expected from him. He's still nimble on his feet. He's young. Hopefully he avoids knee injuries. I mean, if he continues he's unstoppable on offense. That's for damn sure. I mean, obviously on defense, we've seen it. I mean, he's got the wingspan of a freaking albatross. So, I will say this. I heard you say something about Luka being one of the best ISO players. I mean, there's always Kobe and Mikey and Kobe. Those are the two best ISO players ever. But Luka and Nicolo Boltra are right there too. They're getting right there with it. So there's been so many good players like these days, man. And KD in his prime, but Wembanyama is he's a unicorn. He is one of those people that unicorn is put out there way too much. But he's a unicorn. He just needs to be able to keep his frame. And from what I've heard from several reports, like, my inside sources, meaning like,
Oh yeah,
people smarter than me. He's brought the same people from France over that kept him in good conditioning. He's brought them with him, and I mean, if he can stay the way he is, the man's dangerous. He's dangerous, man.
Yeah, and I want to clarify. I by that I just by in terms of best one-on-one ISO players, all I really mean is that when they want to get a shot off, they're gonna get a clean look, and it doesn't matter who's defending them. So I'm not trying to compare era to era. That's not at all what I meant in my comic. But let's first welcome No Earmuffs Joe to the stage.
Oh snap!
Oh.
What?
In the flesh.
Oh, pardon my French. I was like, oh, it's coming.
Yes, I didn't tell him, Joe. It's a surprise.
What? Hey, thanks for commenting on our show, man. On my show. Thanks for commenting, bro.
Yeah, we support growth, even if it's you.
Hey, you know what? Even if it's me, hey, I support you just watching and promoting it, man. Hey, I gave you love. I gave you love out there, though. Put it into the ether. I hadn't seen you in a hot minute. He's still staying. He's still staying in my nice apartment, by the way. Everyone can see it.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
Same apartment, new neighborhood.
It's Bel Air now. He's moving up in the world.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I love it. I haven't seen this fool for a hot minute. Dang, I ain't even talked to you since the Knicks lost, man.
No. All right, E-Rock.
The Knicks lost. No, I'm just kidding.
That's fair. That's fair. But Mr. Joe, first of all, thanks for coming on. Thank you for coming on. Love having you. What do you think? I'm making the case that Victor Wembanyama is already making really good defenders look bad. And I think the comparisons that people are making after the Rudy Gobert one-on-one situation, I think that's unfair. That's completely unfair. But what do you think about everything in the series and the comparison of Rudy Gobert to Wemby?
Well, I mean, it's not aging well, right? It's not aging well just because he just got deked out of his shoes last night, right? So obviously, those who are making the argument for Wemby right now are looking pretty good. But I mean, it's no secret. Gobert does not want to be out there. He does not want to be anywhere near outside the paint. That's just real talk. He's the defensive player of the year from 15 feet inside. As far as the Wemby, making other people look bad. Listen, he got 70 dropped on him earlier this season by Embiid, but he still, by all accounts, actually had a really decent game in that same game. So, came in with a lot of fanfare. He was the next one, right? Everybody knew, when he was playing for the Metropolitan team in France, and that he was coming. So honestly, it's no surprise at this point where he is in his progress. I was saying, in our other lives that that second half of the season, the Spurs were winning at a rate that they clearly were not winning in the first half of the year. And that's really a lot has to do with his maturation, his growth in the league already halfway into his first season. It's like, oh, we figured something out. So I don't honestly, he's in the tops in the league as far as, whenever anybody asks the question, if you were to start a team right now, what player in the league would you start with, given all the factors, age, ceiling, all that kind of jazz? His name comes up a lot just based on his skill set. So honestly, if I was other people in the league, I'd, take it as a compliment. The kid's going to be great. You know what I mean? The kid's going to be great, and it's going to be time soon. There's a lot of people in the interweb saying, hey, look who's in the Final Four. Look who's in the Final Four. Tatum, Edwards, Doncic, Haliburton. It's listen, the old guard's on their way out. The Currys, the Durants, the LeBrons. It's in 5 seasons, these guys are probably not even going to be in the league anymore. So I think we should embrace what Wembanyama is now and what he's going to potentially be down the road.
Oh, love that. See, that's how you bring the fire back. By the way, this the afternoon show is called Provide the Spark. Joe, you have embodied that beautifully. Thank you so much. Let's
Wow,
move on.
nice. I'll
The
remember.
Celtics, I am a huge skeptic of. We all know this. And you know my rule. I need to see you prove me wrong 3 times before I reconsider. Once is a fluke, twice is, well, you could have, right? Something could have gone, you could have gotten lucky a second time, 3 times, and then I'll consider changing my mind because that's evidence. In your opinion, what would the Celtics need to do to kind of, and Jason Tatum especially, in order to kind of get rid of this narrative of they're melting away when it counts the most? Go ahead, E-Rock.
Oh no, let Joe go first, please. I would because you know my position. My position stayed consistent. I want to hear his. I haven't seen him in a while, so I want to hear him.
E-Rock, I swear this will be. We are building to a moment. Give your take first.
I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't know this was a thing. Oh, I'm sorry. It's a. I'm going. I'll go with the bit. Go with the bit. Got you. All right. So, because I know I'm probably going to get a lot of pushback. Everyone knows where I stand on this.
Oh yeah.
I've said it on Scoutcast. I said it here. They're starting to make me look like a damn fool. All right, because I swear it's like the damn they got that leprechaun from the movie Leprechaun. Because every time they get into a series, the best player on the court on the other team gets hurt, whether he goes back on the court or not. It's just a matter. There's some sort of weird voodoo doll Irish thing going on. And I'm Irish for the record, so it's like, so it's like, I don't know. I mean, the Celtics are the better team, no doubt. On paper, better team. Do I have faith in them still? I think, and I've said this in Scoutcast. I just said it to Gabe on the show as well, and I think Joe heard me as well say this. If they don't win both games, actually, this goes for both series. As a matter of fact, this goes for both series. If they don't win both games for the next 2 games, they're done. They can't go down 3-1. They cannot. Well, okay, this is going to sound silly. I feel like the Pacers have more leeway to go down 3-1 than the Timbs do, because I feel like
Okay.
because I've seen the Celtics blow leads. I've seen them do it. I've seen them revert back to their primal form when it comes to like, oh, all they go back to is like, oh, we're just going to do dumb shots and just shoot a bunch of threes. But I wouldn't recommend it if I were them. I wouldn't recommend it. They need to win, but this is going to be an immovable force against a unmovable object, where it is the Celtics haven't lost in the playoffs on the road, and the Pacers have not lost at home yet these playoffs. So something's got to break. Something's got to give, and it'll be interesting to see how that. And unfortunately, we're not going to get to see the best player on Indiana play tonight. But they also still have a very, very talented forward and a very talented center.
See, E-Rock, this is why. You said something new, you said something refreshing, and you did provide the spark. This is why we ask, even if we just talked about the same thing. That was really well done. Go ahead, Joe.
Much obliged.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they're at that stage, and I've said this before on previous shows. They're at the stage where it's championship or bust. No one cares what they do at the beginning of the playoffs anymore. We've done this dance. They've been to the finals. They've had that that prototypical growing pain moment where they got close, they didn't get it done, and they've crawled back. They've changed coaches. Coaches have gone into management. They've got a prototypical third star in your Porzingis. Like they've done all the peripheral things you're supposed to do when you lose the first time around, and now it's championship or bust. What can the Celtics do to ease the skeptics? win a championship.
Yeah.
That's all they can do at this point.
Literally.
They've done literally everything else. Like, they need to diversify their offense. Okay, they have a post presence now. They've got a defensive player in the year type. I don't know if he's ever won or not, but they got a Drew Holiday. They've picked up a Derek White, who's a periphery piece on a middling team in San Antonio. They picked up a guy like that who's producing at a high level. They've done all the peripheral things you're supposed to do when you lose and lose and lose when it counts. That at this point, all they can do is win the championship for them to silence the critics.
And no worries, D-Rock. And I want to go a step further and tell me, Joe, we'll go to you first. Tell me if I'm being too harsh. If in this game, especially because we know Haliburton's out, and in game 4, I think for me, the degree of you need to prove it is much higher for the Celtics team. If it's close, or if they're able to make it like a 10-point game at the end, but throughout 3.5 quarters, it looks bad, I don't think that bodes well for the Celtics team, and I have that higher degree of skepticism. Am I wrong here, Joe?
I mean, me personally, like if we're asking me personally, I don't think they need to win pretty. I'm actually a proponent if you have more.
Oh,
yeah.
so
So he's a proponent of that. I feel him.
Well, no, his take was just so shocking that.
Sorry about that.
It looked like you were whistling. That's what it was like.
Yeah, no, I was moving things, and I'm still moving things as we're talking. But
I'll move things too. I got you. Hold on.
To finish that previous thought, I'm a proponent if you have more points than the other team. I don't care if you win pretty, win ugly. I mean, I actually like it better when you can win ugly, because that tells me that you have the ability to not win just as a front runner. Take a look at the other series that we're looking at as far as Dallas is concerned. Dallas has proven in these playoffs that they can win ugly.
You know what, Joe? This is why we have these conversations, and that's why I love that we're able to just talk here as often as we do. And I'll add you back once I see that your camera situation is resolved. No worries. This is why I love having these conversations, because now I actually want to amend what I said earlier. I'm 100% okay if it is close, meaning if the Boston Celtics are forced to win an ugly game or they're forced to execute down the stretch. That will help to change my mind about this Boston Celtics team. If they come out and control the game by 20 points from the tip-off, then we don't learn anything about this team. So absolutely, Joe, I think you're onto something there. And so this is why we support growth here at Kira Sports Pulse. Go ahead, Yurok.
Just one quick piggyback of what you just said. Again, said it in the previous show on Scoutcast. I wanted to say I gained a lot more respect for Joe Mazzulla. Sorry, English is hard. Joe Mazzulla in the previous game, because again, we're not going to get into the argument today. We'll get into that tomorrow. But when Rick Carlisle was putting in the white flag, or was waving the white flag, Joe Mazzulla kept them in, his stars in, until like a minute left, because he knows they need to stomp. When they stomp on them, keep stomping. Do not let up, because there is no room for error in this. And that's what I'm saying. That was the first time I've seen the Celtics do that kind of mentality, or at least like their philosophy. And that's what they have to do, because they always look so passive. Not Jaylen Brown doesn't look passive, but Jason Tatum looks like that's why I think Jaylen Brown is actually the real star, is becoming the real star on that team right now. And he got snubbed. So for all teams. So that's all I got.
Sure. Moving on. Tyrese Haliburton is out. What's the path to victory for the Indiana Pacers? Go ahead, Yurok.
Oh, Man, speaking of God, I've been thinking about it. Like, talked about it earlier, talk about it now, and I'm still just like, this is just a matter of literally like defense. One, Carlisle's going to need to change his philosophy in terms of the way he handles matchups. In every way, I feel like there should be Siakam should be on Tatum, and Naismith should be on Brown because he's more nimble. Siakam is a lot more. Tatum is beefier, and don't just let them do pick and rolls like the same way that was done to the Minnesota Timberwolves last night. Fight through them, or have a double team planned, and then have a rotation planned after that. Have movement. I mean, Chris Finch was not prepared for that. That's a new coach kind of thing. I mean, he's not new, but he's newer. Rick Carlisle knows better. He's coached defensive teams. We've seen the Mavs win championships because of that, or win a championship because of that under his coaching. So he needs to step his game up, and he needs to step his game up. I actually am blaming a lot of what's happening on the Pacers to Rick Carlisle. I feel like he is letting them down as a coach right now in this series. He helped them in the previous one. He's hindering them in this one. So better defensive matchups. You're not going to be able to run the fast break quite as much because Haliburton is the leading assist man in the NBA. But you have Siakam, who is dominating Al Horford until he decided to sit him on vacation for the whole fourth quarter, essentially. So that's what it is. Matchups are a big deal, and defensive rotation is going to be an even bigger deal. That's what I got.
A lot of bold words there, Erock Joe. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, in whatever belief system you believe in, you're going to need all the energy from the universe to help you tonight. This is the equivalent of all right, it's probably going to be an oversell, but this is the equivalent of pulling Patrick Mahomes off the Chiefs. Like, this is the quarterback of your team. This is the guy that makes the engine run. I honestly, McConnell has started in this league. He's been a spot starter before. He can get you a game here, a game there, as far as starting production if you absolutely need it. But now your guard rotation, at least as far as like in the point guard sense, you're depending on McConnell and Nemard at that position on a more exclusive basis. And I'm not sure that's a huge recipe for success. The reason why McConnell is so good is that he's a star in his role. And so to have to, put him in a position where he's going to have to, maybe play 36, maybe play, a higher number, you're gonna hope that your remaining stars are stars. So now at this point, your Siakams are gonna have to do more. Miles Turner is gonna have to do more. This is a situation where they're gonna really miss a guy like Benedict. He's your Malik Monks, your those kind of guys where they just a spark plug off the bench and just can light it up at any moment. Those are where you miss guys like that. So do I think they still have a chance? You're always going to have a chance when you have, a champion in your lineup. So like a Siakam, he's had games in the series when Haliburton was, looking at Cabo plans. He's had games where he was scoring 36, 35 at the beginning of series. So he can get you that possibility is there. I just worry about the facilitation of the offense, right? Like that having that quarterback.
Mhm.
Um, you're gonna have to ask McConnell to do a little bit more. And like I said, he can get you a spot start here, spot start there. I just worry about that aspect of it. Carlisle has said in press conferences, this team is built around Tyrese. It's built around what his strengths are as a facilitator. And when people were dogging on him as to, his 2 for 9s, his 3 for 12s, even though he had double digit assists and, close to double digit rebounds, he is who he is. That's he said it himself live on interviews that's not necessarily my game. That's not what I pride my hat on. So yeah, you're just gonna ask more of your stars. You're gonna ask more of role players who play big minutes. They're gonna have to play bigger minutes. Can they still win a game? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You don't get this far, without having a complete team, like a capability. He's missed time earlier this season, so like they know how to play without him if need be. Um, but yeah, I just worry about that. He's your quarterback, and you're going to go in there with your backup quarterback, and you just hope for a Boston pooper. They're good for that. They're usually good for that in game twos, but actually show up in their game two this series. But we support vocabulary, right? Poopers. But yeah. Yeah, that's how I feel. Can they get one? Absolutely. Do I feel strongly about them? No, I don't. Not without Haliburton.
I think we touched on everything there. Iraq, you did me a favor earlier in the day, so here's me returning one for you. Let's go ahead and get into this now. Rick Carlisle waved the white flag, some say prematurely. Me and Iraq disagree on this entirely, but Joe, we'll have you set the stage here, okay? Um, and then Iraq, you can go, and then we'll see what happens from there. Do you think Joe that Rick Carlisle did the right thing, or was he giving up way too soon in game two?
Lord have mercy.
I worry about the message you send your team if you're putting in the bench at the time he put it in. I worry about psychologically. These are players that you're going to have to depend on now in a must win, right? Game 3. I do like that they haven't lost a game at home during the playoffs. That's great. Love that for them. But they've been relatively healthy this entire time. So, all that stuff goes out the window when you get to this stage anyway. Shout out to the Timberwolves losing the first 2 at home. Listen, Denver lost their first 2 at home too, so they're watching from wherever it is that they go. Jokic is watching from Serbia. He's clearly tending to his horses right now as we speak.
What about Giannis? What about Giannis?
Giannis, he's out there trying to find himself. Probably find what's left of his hamstring, his calf, whatever he went down with. Whatever it is he does in the offseason. Listen, I don't know what they really do on the offseason except for Jokic, just because he's very blatantly not a basketball player when he's not playing basketball, He is the most 9-to-5 NBA player that I have ever seen on the planet, brother. As soon as the season's over, he's literally not even thinking about basketball. He's not even thinking about a court. He's not thinking about a locker room. That man is out there tending to the future Kentucky Derby winner. Like he's really just about that business outside. But yeah, I just to tie it together. I worry about the psychological. I worry about the psychological aspect of it. When these guys are supposed to get up for game 3 and you're waving the white flag at the time in the game that you're waving it. I mean, what was it? At an abundance of caution, not to lose anyone else. Like, do we get like, scared? You just saw a series where they literally had a team that on their last legs, right? Let's just be honest. The Knicks were on their last legs. He just didn't want to go into a game 3 with a bag of chips and a Coke. Like that's the only thing that I can think about. He's like, all right, I can't lose anybody else. I already know. I'm looking at my team. Maybe he saw something we didn't. Like, he's got a young squad. Like maybe he's just like, nah, we just gonna call it. We're gonna call it here. Let's get back to Indiana. Let's get some treatment. Let's just, you know what I mean? Just, put in the Ben Shepherds, the Jacob Toppins. Let's whatever we got to do. Let's just get to the next game at this point. But I personally thought it was too soon for me. Like if I'm a player on that team, it's like, yo, let me go, coach. Just let me do my thing. All
right. So Joe's on the record. He wants more PT. What about you, E-Rock?
Oh my God, that was great. That was like people say word salad. If you're gonna call something word salad, that was a word chef salad. That was like filet mignon on top of a salad. That was great. That was incredible. First he dogged the Nugs. First he dogged the Nugs, and then he horsed the Nugs, I should say. And then he dogged. He said a bag of chips and a Coke. That was great. That was great. It's not even worth a hot dog. It's not even worth a ballpark hot dog. Oh damn. Oh Lord, that was great, Joe. I missed you. That was incredible. Okay, all right. I'm not going to try and top it. I'm just going to be honest and say what I say. And thank you, by the way, Gabe. I appreciate it. I'll keep this very succinct and to the point. I think it's cowardly. I think it's stupid. I think it is absolutely sending. I agree with Joe on every level, except for he's going to have way more colorful metaphors. You're sending the wrong message to your team. Did you see the look on Pascal Siakam's face? Did you hear the flimsy nonsense crap, bologna sandwich nonsense he said after the game for his reasoning? If you're going to at least do it, cop out, tell the truth, or at least say no comment or something, because this was absolutely cowardly. It was so, and then saying to have the nerve to say, oh, Pascal was really tired. No blank, he was tired. It's the playoffs. It's an 82 game season. He's a freaking athlete. Of course he's tired. He's even less tired when you rested him for 9 minutes, basically. Are you kidding me? Same with Highsmith. So what the hell? This is absolutely ridiculous. And this was right after the day after, like on my podcast, where I said, we actually may have been on this podcast. I said that he is a better coach than Mazzulla. Mazzulla kept his starters in until like I said a minute ago. Like I said a bit ago, he left them in until like a minute left because he understands this is the Eastern Championship. What in the hell are you doing, Carlisle? You curmudgeon! What? You better make sure. You better sure as hell make sure you win this next game. Because if you don't win this next game, if I was a GM, I'd fire your ass in a second. Because that is you're betting on their future, and you're not even necessarily guaranteed to keep every player. And you're just gonna say, "Oh, I'm betting we're gonna win 2 games in this home." Well, what about if you lose the next game? Then you got to win 2 more in a row. They weren't even down by that much. They were not down. Pascal Siakam made 5 straight baskets when they were down double digits, got it to single digits, and then he got benched. No excuse. Terrible. That's all I got to say. I'm done. And I don't need to retort. You can have the rest of it from now. Hostess with the mostest.
Oh no! If you want, I'll let you change your mind. So I'll give my response to your response, and then I will allow each of you to give a response to my response of your response. So equal opportunity here.
So a
But
response. So a response of a
Mhm.
response of a response. Yeah.
Well, in essence,
All right.
but here's why I largely was okay with it. This is Every situation is different for me, and this is a pun intended. Absolutely, this was the coach feeling the pulse, the CuriousSportsPulse.com of his team. And what do I mean by that? He saw that this wasn't a game that his team could win, and he saw that his players were deflated, which often happens when you lose your best player. He saw that this wasn't going to happen, and he just made the decision of, okay, we're gonna just fight to live another day. And I largely agree with his post game reasoning. The only way you get better at basketball is by playing basketball in the in-game scenario. So God forbid now I'm not saying that those 8 minutes are going to be the difference, but they certainly help, particularly now without Halliburton, for sure for this game, maybe longer, maybe for the game 4 as well. Getting someone actual running time who otherwise wouldn't, I think, can prove invaluable, and you never know for whom, and you never know in what scenario. So I'd much rather have those players, even if it's B side against B side, C side against C side. I would much rather have those players have a run of actual playoff experience under their belt before they're forced to have their first playoff action. And if we're being real, their first action period in God knows how long. So that's why I largely don't mind what happened. And I think ultimately it was probably people, I think it was largely the right move at the time. And we can Monday morning quarterback it if we want. But that's why personally I was okay with it. Erock or Joe, do you two want to go ahead, author anything further? Up to you.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna actually support your argument. Let's take a look at the last series with the Knicks and the Pacers. Alec Burks did not see but maybe 19 minutes of the playoffs before game 3 or 4 um, of the Pacers series. And there was a situation where they were getting toasted by the Pacers, and he got significant minutes in that game. And he had a hell of a last 2 games in that Pacers series. So in support of the argument, that was a guy that wasn't even in the playoff rotation in the first couple of rounds, and then got some run and was able to produce at a high level after the loss of OG again and the injury to Hart. So to support this particular argument, I guess from that standpoint, I can see getting some guys in there that you may have to rely on moving forward. Your Ben Shepherd. So Ben Shepherd is going to get a lot more minutes in the guard rotation with Haliburton out. So that's a guy that I could pinpoint. If he got some run for a significant amount of time, and then he's going back home into a game 3 where generally speaking, role players play better at. That's a good transition. You're in a comfortable environment. You're going to get minutes because your guy's going to be out. I can support a viewpoint that says, hey, some guys are going to get some burn. Let's let them get the burn in a non-pressure situation. See the ball go in the hoop. See them make basketball plays um, in a playoff environment. Um, I would like that better than like preseason or in a blowout situation in a regular season where it's um, not as critical. What we're watching. Even a blowout, even in the playoffs, especially when one of your big guys go down, those minutes mean something down the road. And I'd cite Alec Burks from the Knicks in their run to support that argument.
And he cites a source. Go ahead, Erock. Anything to add?
Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I will admit, you both make very good points. I see where you're coming from. I just can't get on board with it. I'm sorry. Respectfully, I can't get on board with it. Every competitive fiber of my being hates it. And yes, I know the Knicks series, hindsight's 2020, or as Cam Newton said, hindsight 50-50 is something like that. That's what he said. So hindsight's 2020 in, better and smarter terms. I can't get on board with it. I hated it. It was way too early. Now, if it was 5 minutes left and it was double digits, yes. When it's like 9, I can't remember, it was between 7 and 9 minutes, and they never come back in, and they were only down by single digits, I can't get on board with it. I'm sorry, I can't. I just don't like it. And the flimsy excuse, I can't get with the excuse either. I can't. I mean, everyone's tired. You leave it all on the floor every bit because you know what? If you make it to the championship round, you get 2 to 3 days off in between games. Then you have time to rest. So compared to where it's every other day. But that's just my opinion. But I respect where y'all are coming from, though.
Were they?
I mean, go
But
ahead.
they were down by when he got benched. They were down by single digits. They were down by 9.
Are we sure about that? Because I thought they were down by like 17.
No, I'm 100%.
When he took them out, when Obi came in.
When Pascal
Siakam at 9:25.
Pascal Siakam got taken out, he had made 5 straight field goals. They were down by 9. By 9. I'm 100% sure. Which is what makes me hate it more.
Yeah, I was just looking at the play-by-play on ESPN because I when I heard it initially, I was just like,
I remember watching it. I was watching it at night because that was commented on the next day. Everyone kept saying they were down to single digits, and at the least, they were down by a manageable amount. I mean, the NBA being down by 20, you can come back quick.
Oh, okay, I can agree with the manageable because
even if it was 11
playoffs, like if you're down by X amount, teams.
Even if it was 11, that's ridiculous. It's absurd with 7 to 9 minutes left. That's absurd. But I respect where y'all are coming from, but I can't get on board with it, respectfully.
Yeah, don't worry. We're about to settle this once for all in terms of the actual timing. Because now I'm curious. For sure though, I think it was less about the score and more about just what happened and the deflation that happened. Like when so and so snaps their ACL or when the ambulance is on the field, right? You almost feel that deflation where it's almost insurmountable mentally. And so that's what I think it was more akin to than anything else. Joe, who do you have for tonight? Indiana Pacers Celtics. We're not doing spread or anything like that, but general feel while I look this up.
I think it'll be closer than people think. I personally don't know what the spread is. I think they may lose by single digits. I think they can get it by like 8 or 9. I wouldn't say it's a double-digit loss by the Pacers. I think. Listen, McConnell's a dog, dude. Yinzer, dog. That guy can ball, and like I said, he can get you a spot start. He's a really good backup quarterback. Really good. Like you, as a coach, I would feel comfortable if I had to put him in for a game or two and get one. Now, if we're in a situation where Haliburton's out for the series, then I mean it goes no further than 5 games.
Right.
But I would feel comfortable with McConnell giving me one, and I just need one of the youngins to have an efficient game. Whether that's Nemhard, whether that's Ben Shepherd. I need one of those guys to have a really solid IQ basketball IQ game if we're gonna have a chance tonight. I will say this: out of the two, this is the one that's the gettable one, but it's also the one they have to get. And I say this because Celtics have a tendency to play with their food, right? So that's the gettable part of the game. But 3-0 with a young team, that's where it's a must win. So I got the Pacers. I mean, I got the Celtics, but I also have it. I think it's a single digit game. I think they can. I don't think they get blown out at home. First game after Haliburton gets hurt. All the energy in the field house, the Lad house. Shout out to Pat McAfee. I mean, he may be in the house, to be honest with you. He may actually physically be there tonight to support the squad.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, give me the Celtics. But I think the Pacers are competitive.
I like that. Thank you, Joe. Okay, Iraq, do you want me to go on my soliloquy, or do you want to, or did you find something where you'd want to amend your statement? I'll be nice today.
Actually, I'm going to say this before you. I would like you to do this, but let me say this before because
sure.
I know they were close. And by the way, it may not have been single digits, I know, but still, as long as it was within 20 points, if it was within 20 points, it was worth it. And by the way, here's the other thing. You're talking about the deflating thing. Like, oh, it was a deflation kind of thing. Tell that to the New York Knicks. They lost all those players, and they still came out fighting every single game, and they won a lot of them as well. So you're never out of a game in the NBA. I don't care how much you're down by. I mean, so the fact that you would give up on that, especially in the playoffs, makes it even that much more important. That's all I'm saying. Now you can go on your soliloquy.
No, I mean, you can't compare the New York Knicks culture to that of the Indiana Pacers. That is complete apples and oranges. And Tom Thibodeau, that is what's the look for you, Rock?
I would say, because it shouldn't be. I mean, and I give Tom Thibodeau I give Tibbs a lot of nonsense, but still, I mean, I'm talking about the player culture itself. I mean, they went out there and just fought. It's not even that coach's side; they still went out there and fought. I mean, that's and that's why I'm criticizing Carlisle so much. This is like where I actually would give Tibbs a lot more credit because he's old school. He went nose to the grindstone. You know what I'm saying? Like he wanted to make sure they got out there. And look how far they made when they should have underachieved. They only had one original starter on the floor. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, go ahead and you're on your soliloquy.
Yeah, but there are two different, or not two. There are a bunch of different ways coaches can approach it, though. So Carlisle isn't wrong for this approach. And right, so by the time I will do as I am.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you can't compare the two because losing Haliburton for the Pacers, you could just see that it was like, oh shoot, they were in that game, and so that's what it was more about, in my opinion. But anyway, he checks out at 9:25, and it was a 17-point win. So according to you, if they had made, or if the Celtics had made a 3-pointer earlier, then it would have been okay to do this. I think that's something of a silly point. Like, it's a 17-point game with everything going against you. I'm okay with them pulling and waving the white flag at the 9:25 mark. I really am, because of all the reasons I said. But this is more importantly of why I even got into sports writing and sports journalism and doing the YouTube thing as I have. Because whoever said that to you on ESPN, Iraq, just clearly didn't do their homework, and they were just saying something reckless without just checking the basic facts. It took me 2 minutes to just verify everything? 2 minutes. All I did was say, when did Pascal Siakam exit the game? And I looked, it said 9:25, and I looked at what the score was at the 9:25 mark. 2 minutes. And so all of these lazy narratives, all of these things that people assume in the back of their mind that we just take for granted and say, oh yeah, it must be true because it's been said a million times. No, at the very least, we should have these discussions. This should be open conversations. And let's see, just like Joe and I did earlier, and he convinced me that my original take was wrong.
May I ask
that's
may I ask a question?
God, Iraq, May I ask that you not interrupt when I'm talking? But yeah, go ahead now.
No, it's a I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be rude. It's like a question. This is actually not even an argument. I'm actually asking a question since you obviously.
Yeah,
And
but
I
either
agree.
way, please don't interrupt when someone else is
I
talking. But go ahead.
I do. I apologize. Sorry. Yeah, you blipped out. I apologize. They did say that he went on. He scored 5 straight field goals, Siakam, before he was taken out of the game. That was all I was asking. I don't know if that was true or not. So I'm sorry. I will not interrupt you again. I apologize, sir. No disrespect intended.
So that he made for the Pacers is what they must mean, because the Boston Celtics had scored 2 other field goals before then, and now let's see. No, Obi taught. No, that's true. That's false too.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's just false.
Okay.
So
No,
this is what I mean. Yeah, I'm not yelling at you. Obviously, I'm not even yelling, but just that. This is exactly what I'm talking about. A 2-minute verification, and you see that you see that they're just talking out of their behinds and don't know what they're talking about. And so this is why we have a show here, and this is why we have provide the spark, and this is what you provided for us today, Erock. So I appreciate the ability to go on my soliloquy. Go ahead, Joe. Any final thoughts on this?
apologies.
Yeah. I don't. Irregardless, to the point. Obviously, Carlisle's the coach of the team. He's going to make the decisions that are best suited for his team. To Gabe's point, he taking the temperature of the room, seeing what he's seeing as far as the score versus the minutes. Honestly, I think going into that fourth quarter, he probably had a point differential in mind. By that point in the game, he said, if we can get it down to X by this minute mark, I feel good about leaving them in and see if they can make a run. I don't know how much they were down by at that. I'm not looking at it at this point in time. I don't know how much they were down by to start the quarter, but I think he saw enough in the 2.5 minutes into that fourth quarter to be like, all right, some guys are going to need some burn because we're probably going to need them in the next game. Let's go ahead and get those guys out there. And I say this specifically, the 2 people that I saw go out immediately were Pascal and TJ McConnell at that minute mark. That's telling to me because those are going to be the 2 most important players going into that game 3. It's the replacement for the starter that's lost, and it's the second best player on the team that went out. So that makes sense. You're going to need those 2 guys in that game 3 at home about as healthy as you can have them. So why risk an injury to one of those 2 people? Obi got some burn. Matter of fact, he had a 3 later on in the game that cut it to 14 at one point. Ben Shepherd got some burn. These are 2 guys that are going to be important in the forward and guard rotations. Honestly, if we're looking like whole big picture, I think that Haliburton loss not only hurts the team as a whole. Specifically, there's been a lot of like Lob City dunks that Obi has gotten on the receiving end from Haliburton that is a part of their game. A la, Lively catching those or Gafford catching those in Dallas, like that's a big part of his game, is catching those, him in the dunker spot, catching those alleys. That's a part of the game that will be missing, but I like the fact that, Obi got some burn. I like the fact that Ben Shepherd specifically got some burn, because those are 2 guys that are going to be counted upon for, bigger minutes, depending on how they're going to work out that guard rotation moving forward. So I think after Gabe made his argument and then seeing what Alec Burks did in the Pacers Knicks series, I can understand the viewpoint a little bit better now. as far as why you give guys like that some burn heading into a home must-win game 3 down one of your focal points.
And I'll be nice to you, Rock. You'll get the last word on this. But to answer Joe's question, they were down 13 at the start of the fourth, and then they went on that mini run. They're down 17, and that's them when he waved the white flag.
So they're -4 3 minutes into the quarter. I'm even more okay with the specific moves that they made, which was Haliburton and which was McConnell and Siakam, which are the must-have players health-wise if you're going into that game 3.
Go ahead, E-Rock.
I will admit, again, sorry for interrupting on that one. You kind of blipped out. I thought you were done. But I will say you guys have you haven't swayed me the entire way because every fiber of my being hates it. But I will say this. I'll say this. It is a very, very calculated risk because you chose to not pursue it. And if you're not going to pursue it, you damn sure better win this next game. Because if you lose this next game, you're effed. You are effed. I mean, like I said, they have more leeway than the Tims do because the Tims go down 3-0 or 3-1, they're screwed. If they go down 3-1, they need to at least split this series. But even 3-1, they're in deep doo-doo. They need to win both of these games. So Carlisle put his chips all up on black on this one, on the roulette table. All right? So you better sure as hell make sure you coach your ass off this game. That's why I said Highsmith needs to be covering Jaylen Brown because he's in torching you like a torch, like ethanol, all right? Like kerosene. And Siakam needs to be covering Jason Tatum because your least of your worries is Al Horford because he camps out. And I gave this earlier. I said this stat earlier. This is a prop. I know we didn't ask for betting, but this is a prop pick, and it is 100% a guarantee. Al Horford 7 rebounds prop pick. He ain't gonna reach that because he camped his geriatric ass. His geriatric ass sits at the corner of the damn line. Everyone, look at Al Horford tonight. Trust me, it won't be hard to miss. He's the tall dude who sits literally in the corner of the court. He doesn't move. It's like a little waste of space, dude. And he's not even shooting the tray well right now. So it's a waste of space. But no. So it's 100%. Carlisle needs to get his ish together and realign his defensive rotations, and play through the screens. Don't just let them have their way with you. Because if they lose tonight, man, they're done. That's a wrap. It's barbecue chicken. It's summertime chicken Caesar wrap. All right. So it's done. But I will concede to y'all. Yes, I see where you're coming from. Do I think it's a great idea? I wouldn't do it. I'm competitive. I wouldn't do it. But yes, it is a calculated risk. That's the best you're going to get from me on that one. So I got you.
I mean, by all means, you're allowed to have your opinion. I think it's basically you're saying that I'm not going to be able to compete tonight, but I put my team in the best position for this series. So it's not a lack of competition, in my opinion. But anyway, for sure, you open yourself up to this fair criticism if you do get swept. So I think that's more than fair. So I agree with you on that one, E-Rock. And I don't agree with it, but I think you do open yourself up. So look at us meeting halfway, E-Rock. Joe, I don't know. Do you have work to plug anything you just want to tell us? Go ahead. Floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always updating the website, so you can catch me on X at Java Joe Sports. Link to my portfolio is on there. I'm honestly currently balancing work and getting my master's degree in English and creative writing. So
we support growth.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm literally writing every day because I have to. Have to. But yeah, I give my takes out there. Keep posting out there. I actually just one quick note. I was watching the game live yesterday, and I was actually watching the Twitter coverage by Jay Crawford when he live called the entire final sequence for Luka Doncic. I was there watching it live. That man called the switch Gobert on Kyrie on the second to last possession, and he said, "Here's what's going to happen. Luka's going to catch that switch on Gobert. He's not going to be able to switch back, and he's going to hit the 1-footed step back three to the game." And I saw it happen. I was like, "Brother, let's go." Crossover doesn't miss, man. He does not miss. So that's the kind of content that's out there. So definitely use all the content watching you can. Enjoy the rest of these games. Go Pacers tonight because nobody wants to watch a sweep. Nobody wants to watch you get dusted. Get out of the loud house.
Jordan Ramos does. Jordan Ramos does. He's very.
You know what? KC's a little spicy, and we know that. He likes his elote very spicy out there in those streets. Shout out to Hot out there at City Field.
Some people just want to watch the world burn, right?
Honestly, and I'm convinced that JC is one of those people. But enjoy the game tonight. I hope Pat's out there in the loud house supporting the team. And yeah, just catch me at Java Joe Sports. You'll find me posting memes and posting thoughts on the games. And yeah, who knows? Maybe my friends might have a column out there for me. I don't know. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Bob's your uncle. We'll catch you on the flip side, all right?
See you later.
I don't know how to take all that. Love you, Joe. See you, man. Go ahead, E-Rock.
I said, oh no, some people just want to watch the world burn. There you go. Jordan says, I hope they get injured. They hope they break their leg. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to support that. I don't support that nonsense because apparently the Boston Celtics already have that kind of magic in their books somehow. Oh, my neighbor apparently his dog is very upset right now or excited something. Hadn't stopped barking for 20 minutes. Dang cocker spaniel over here. No, I just want to say thank you to this platform that you have allowed me to join on here. So shout out to this. What you came up with the name finally. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I get it right.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. So the website is CuriousSportsPulse.com. So this is the Curious Sports Pulse YouTube channel. This show specifically is Provide the Spark, which you did an excellent job doing today.
Thank you. There you go. All right. Provide the Spark. Thank you to Curious Pulse, and thank you to Provide the Spark. What? That's close. I'm
yeah, you got it. You got it. You got it.
Curious Sports Pulse. All right. And thanks again to Gabe coming on to my show or my network on Scoutcast Media Hub. And thank you to everyone that is a part of it. Josh Valdez, Jordan Alves, Goober as he is. I hope to get Joseph on there, and Gabe especially, and Andre at some point. I hope he gets to make Andre Eiffel. I hope he gets to make it on there as a special occasion. So thank you all so much. Enjoy the games tonight, and follow me at livinggood09 as posted right there. We got content going out the yin yang, and hopefully you enjoy it. Because if you're not watching it, you're not making as much money as you should. And, don't do as I say, not as I do. Because I need to stop being all flip-floppy on my own self. So I give you all the good like a flounder at flip-flop, So no one likes that. All right. So y'all have a great night and have a great Memorial. Well, I'll see y'all tomorrow on my show and maybe on Gabe's show. We'll see what happens.
Oh, yeah.
Also, a surprise show for Scoutcast tomorrow. You will be informed via social media. So Thanks, Gabe. I appreciate it.
You and me have been at this since January now. I just doing this now our own thing. Just going our thank you, man.
Absolutely.
See you later.
Peace.